that's good. Oh, look at that. Great. Have you guys been here before? Yeah, we got some great friends here from AFP. Great organization, highly respected, that fairly and accurately portrays the things I do. But you guys, before you leave, you got to look. I mean, you see the color photo up here of the speaker. So when the school groups came, they didn't know who the current speaker was. They looked at all these black and white photos. So we said, why don't we put up the photo of the speaker now in color? So when the school groups come in, they see it. And they can see all, these are just a small fraction of all the awards that I've received. I've received many more. I don't know that we could display them all. Soon we'll be receiving another from MERS House Member of the Year. Now last year I was the, I was the Political Figure of the Year, and I would have won that again, but you don't do it this year. You only do it in the off year. So I think I would have won it again, but I won House Member of the Year. And last time it was like, do you guys remember Christopher Cross at the Grammys? He won the, what do they call that? The Grand Slam, he won everything. I was gonna win everything, but John Rurink, the editor, is he the publisher? He said, nope, he only gets to win one. So they gave me Public Figure of the Year, but this year he nominated me. So I feel like he's redeemed himself. But I would have won House Member of the Year, Political Figure of the Year. Most people think Senator of the Year because there's no one there that really deserved it. I would have won all of them. What was the fourth one? There's House Member of the Year, Political Figure of the Year, Senator of the Year, which I probably would have won. No, but you don't do freshmen in the off year. There's a fourth one, and I would have won that too. Yeah, Minority Member of the Year, because we were in the minority. I would have won all four, but John Rurink denied it, so that's okay. But yeah, you guys got to check out all the awards over here. Maybe AFP has an award. Maybe I'd be in the running. What's that? Thank you. Yeah, I'd be in the running if you guys had an award, don't you think? I would be in the running for an award if you had one. Yeah, I mean, you saw we had no new corporate welfare last year. No tax on tips, overtime, Social Security. You guys have done such a great job pointing out that we had a revenue neutral gas tax that now all the money collected at the pump goes to roads. You guys have really been doing it. And you got to see this picture up here too. It's a beautiful picture I put up that'll be here for many decades. No one remembers the picture that was up there before. It was a black and white photo of bunch of books. But look at this beautiful photo of myself, Leader Nesbitt, Gretchen Whitmer, with President Trump welcoming a new fighter mission to Michigan. It's beautiful, isn't it? That'll be there for many decades. So welcome AFP, great organization. Great to have the Dean back, Tim Skubic. Welcome, sir. We always appreciate you being here. And is this your cameraman here? Yeah, I'm sorry about your loss with Bob Weir. That's tough, man. He's got a Grateful Dead shirt on, so I appreciate that. That's a tough one, so a great legacy there. But anyway, great to have everybody. Happy opening day. Are you guys excited? I mean, you guys can only do so many year-end analysis. You need some new content, so we thought we'd give it to you today. It's a very exciting day. It's picture day. I don't know if you know this. We never actually took a group picture of the House Republicans in the last session. We never did. We were so busy, we never did. So this year we're going to do that. We're going to do a nice panoramic. They've only done that twice in the history of Michigan, the panoramic. And it was, the first time was when Rick Johnson was Speaker. The second time was when Lee Chatfield was Speaker. This will be the third time. So I think this will be the official one they actually use for hundreds of years. So we're looking forward to that. And this is a very historic day. I mean, you look at this, this was the only chamber in the country to flip from Democrat to Republican. And so we're going to commemorate that today with a very nice panorama. It'll hang in the Capitol for probably 100 years. They probably won't do this again. And when I look at it, this is really a legislature that we should celebrate. I mean, first of all, We set the record for 74 public acts, the fewest in Michigan's history, at least going back to 1839? 1837. We're very proud of that. And what we're proud about is for years and years and years, they would pass hundreds of laws. And, I got a second source on that chart that was in the Detroit News. So I've looked at it. And we can, if you look at this graph, it's 600, 500, 400 every year. And then it dips down last year. And I think it's important what we need to see the media reporting a little more accurately. The purpose of the legislature is not just to pass laws. These guys, they pass hundreds and hundreds of laws every year if you look at this chart. And then nobody looks to see if any of these laws are working. And so this past year, we put a pause on that. We said, look, let's do oversight. Let's look at whether these laws are working. Let's look at what departments are doing. Often the departments are not following the law, which is why we have a very robust oversight committee, led by Jay DeBoyer, who's doing a great job, looking into our child welfare system, looking into our Secretary of State, our Attorney General, looking into all of these departments, the corporate welfare giveaways where they're breaking laws and paying out money they shouldn't, making bad deals. We're looking at all of those things, and I think that really last year you saw a restoration of the balance of power between the governor and the legislature, where we're really looking at all of these laws, determining how are they working. Nobody does that. They just pass new laws all the time. I think we're really going through this budget looking line by line. And I saw politicians that said they looked line by line. There's no way they looked line by line. We looked line by line. We found so much waste, fraud, and abuse. $5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse. I remember when I ran for office the first time, you say, well, I want to cut this tax. They'd say to you, well, how are you going to pay for it? And that was always a way the media would discredit Republicans. Well, I think we showed $5 billion. We went through every line. We found $5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse, and nobody anymore even says, how are you going to pay for it? I think we've established it. When we eliminated the 2,000 ghost employees, those are fake workers where they would pad the departments with fake workers. You cut 2,000 jobs in state government and you didn't lay off one worker. That's 2,000 ghost employees, ghost jobs that we cut, and there's at least 3,000 more, and we're finding more every day. But that was $200 million for the 2,000 ghost employees. You see all the wasteful grant programs. We saw the arts and culture grants, the symphony grants, all kinds of things. You see all the welfare that illegal aliens are getting, whether it's through the Office of Global Michigan, which we enthusiastically cut in our December action, but also this RX Kids. Nobody talks about this, but they have guaranteed universal income for new mothers in select places, but they're also paying out to illegal aliens. You look at their documents. This is basically a cash assistance workaround to give basic universal income to these new mothers, and you look and they say they won't look at your citizenship. So it isn't for citizens, it's for people, and they don't look at your citizenship status. So you look at that. This is an end around to give cash payments to illegal aliens to have children, which then puts the parents at the front of the line. So there's a lot of problems with this RX Kids, and we gave them $20 million last year, the Democrats did. They only spent $2 million of it, and they left $18 million, and they had more money this year that they can easily contract and spend. We're going to take that $18 million, we're going to look at it and say, what is going on here? I heard some of the media opine, why did they give them money this year? Why didn't they just not give them money this year? Because they didn't spend their money last year. And I would just say, when we're doing the budget, they don't give us a clear picture of spending. I sat in all these meetings. You guys know I made a great budget deal. The budget for this year is smaller than last year, even under the fake CRC numbers. And we know CRC is a very Democrat organization. They give all of their executives that I've seen, they either give to Democrats or their donors are Democrats. But even the political Democrat CRC came out recently and pointed out how ridiculous this political opinion by Attorney General Dana Nessel is. I mean, you look at her opinion, even they said, whoa, this is not going to work. This is a very bad opinion. They pointed out how essentially this totally stacks it for the governor. It doesn't make any sense. So even the Democrat CRC came out and said this was a bad opinion, and it's not workable. So give them credit for that. It's kind of like when the Michigan Advance writes something nice about me. I mean, they're paid by the Democrats too, but they're more fair than a lot of the other media sources. Are they here, Michigan Advance? Are you guys here? Yeah. Oh yeah, right here. Yeah, so they get paid by the Democrats, but they're much more fair than most of the reporters, so I give them credit for that. And I talked to Ben Solis yesterday at the Trump rally, and if you talk to them, they even see that there are signs that our economy is turning around very well the last few months under President Trump. So you guys should all talk to Ben Solis, because I talked to him yesterday. He gets it, that this economy is turning around. You see the stock market soaring. You see gas prices coming down. We see, we had a big problem under President Biden. Big problem. President Trump is doing what he needs to do to bring those costs down. I love what he's doing to, we're going to cap, he's going to cap the credit card companies at 10% interest. You see that he's doing some things to bring the mortgage rates more in line. Hopefully this Fed acts soon to bring down rates, but President Trump really has been doing some good things. And you see, by the way, is Bridge here? Is Bridge? Yeah, I didn't see you, Jordan, because she's kind of sitting in front of you. So Bridge, I read your report. This University of Michigan, they had this very fake study last year where they talked about how the tariffs were going to cost all kinds of jobs, thousands of jobs. They've revised that, and Bridge reported it. They've revised that, and they've admitted it's actually going to lead to an increase in jobs. So nobody else reported that I saw, but that was right. So remember all the doom and gloom about the tariffs? Well, now these people are revising their estimates and saying actually it's going to increase jobs. And that works so very closely. It tracks very closely to what I'm seeing on the ground here in Michigan. When you talk to manufacturers, the suppliers, they're getting more orders because of the tariffs. And, we saw the announcements last year from Stellantis, from GM, from Ford, where they're all making new investments in Michigan. ICE vehicles, we're seeing the Tahoes over in Orion. We're seeing Ford and Stellantis making huge multi-billion-dollar investments where they're building new cars in Michigan, something that people said could not be done. It's happening. And so it makes sense the job numbers because of the tariffs are actually a positive for Michigan. And when people get their tax returns back, they're going to see very good things because of the Trump tax cuts. We see what he did with his tax cuts. That's going to be huge for investment, for business and research and development and manufacturing. And people are getting real relief on those returns. So a lot of positive things, and actually Ben acknowledged this to me. So maybe everyone should talk to him, because I think he's got a very good perspective on it. But anyway, just as we're looking at this past year, we did 74 laws. We're focused on oversight, but we did some very big things, and I feel like in a lot of the analysis I see, they're kind of forgetting what a big lift fixing our roads was. And I saw report after report after report where people said they can't do it, they're not going to do it, they talk about this every year, it never happens, and Governor Whitmer and I willed that into happening, where we made $2 billion investment every year in roads, something I've been talking about since my first campaign in 2018. I said we're going to dedicate all of the money collected at the pump to roads. We're now doing that. We're now doing it. It's happened. And I went back and watched the first interview I did with Rick Albin on his show, And I was talking about that, and to finally do that in 2025 is certainly a good reason to take a panorama of this historic House in the 103rd legislature. So as we're going through that, you look, I mean, we got that done. No tax increase, according to ATR, the Americans for Tax Reform. They looked at it, they said, look, you've got no tax on tips, kind of mixed together with these other things. There's no increase in the gas tax. They didn't score it a tax increase. So I give them a lot of credit for that. They saw it accurately. But ultimately, we got $2 billion for the roads, and we did it by cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, and dedicating all of the money collected at the roads. So I was very proud of that. That was a very heavy lift, something that we didn't get a lot of credit for. It's almost like, oh, yeah, they did that. I remember, it's actually funny, I went on Tim's show the day after we did the sick leave and the tip credit. Do you guys remember that? We passed a law that no one thought we could do in, 2 months? And we got the tip credit. We saved the restaurant industry. We protected restaurant workers. We saved probably hundreds of restaurants, if not thousands, from closing. We modified this paid sick leave law so it was workable, because remember, they were going to allow activist groups to sue employers that tried to do something when employees showed up or wouldn't show up for work. No call, no show. And you remember we had the 911 operators, we had the sheriffs, we had everybody coming in saying, what, people can just not come into work and not call? That isn't going to work. We fixed that law. We made it very workable. That was a huge achievement. But I went on Tim's show the next day, and we talked about it for like 2 minutes, and then it was like, what are you guys going to do for me now? And that's just how life works, right? And it was, but let's look at that. I mean, these were huge, monumental legislation, much more significant than what legislature normally does. And I looked at that, I said, what we did on the sick leave and the tip credit to save all of those employers, restaurant workers, was the most significant business legislation that I had been a part of in my 7 years now. Now this is, I guess, is this year 8? Year 8, wow. And another thing to be excited about today on opening day is we're finally entering the final year of Gretchen Whitmer as our governor and Winnie Brinks as our Senate leader. We use that term very loosely, leader, because she's not much of a leader, but her title is Senate leader. So, the final year of them, now we all know I'll be around for another 4 years, 5 years, but they're going to be around for 1 more year. So I'm excited to work with Governor Whitmer in her final year on an issue that she's raised, which is literacy. I know we're 7, 8 years in, but the fact that she's finally getting around to that is really positive. We've seen the test scores. They're not very good in reading. I think everyone acknowledges that we need to do better in reading. She's raised that issue. I'm very excited to work with her. I think you saw her and I have a great relationship. We willed that budget into happening. I went to the ALEC conference where we won the Bob Williams Award for Fiscal Responsibility. And they said, how did you get Gretchen Whitmer to sign a bill that cut $800 million in waste, fraud, and abuse? We can't even do this in a lot of red states. And they gave us the Bob Williams Fiscal Responsibility Award for the whole country. So I think it's been a great partnership with Governor Whitmer, with her as the leader, the true leader of the Democrats, and me as the leader of the Republicans. We solved sick leave tip credit. We got no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security. We cut the budget. We made it smaller than last year. We saved Medicaid. I'd come up here and listen to the stuff that Winnie Brinks would say, and she would just complain and complain and complain about Medicaid and all this doom and gloom and fear-mongering. I went to work with the Trump administration and learned everything I could about the One Big Beautiful Bill and the changes to Medicaid, and I realized with Greg Van Workum, I said, we just have to make some very small changes to our Medicaid program and we get all the federal funding. So why don't we just do that instead of complaining? And Greg drafted up the bill, and we went to the governor and Winnie Brinks, and they said, really, we can do that? I said, yes. They said, okay, let's do it. And it was very easy, and we're getting all of our Medicaid money for this year just by making a very minor change to the state law to sync up to the federal law. So, all of that doom and gloom turned out to be nothing, just like these tariff studies, which are now revising and saying, actually, tariffs are creating jobs in Michigan. Very interesting. What you're seeing there. But I think what we're going to do today in the House will also help us with our efforts to work with Governor Whitmer on literacy. I've decided, even though every Democrat voted no on the bill to ban the cell phones in the classrooms, you know what? It's a new year. We're going to start off on a fresh foot, and we're going to put that up again for a vote today. Mark Tisdale has done a lot of great work on the bill to ban the cell phones in the classroom. You see this is a growing problem in Michigan where the kids have their cell phones in the classroom, they're distracted, they're not paying attention to their teachers, and they're not doing well in their scores, in their reading, and their math. Our education system is not getting the job done right now. And I think even Governor Whitmer acknowledged that in her State of the State last year, that we're putting records amount of money into schools. We did that again this year. We put record money into schools. I was happy to do that. We did the free breakfast and lunch. We're doing all these things, but Governor Whitmer even acknowledged we're not getting the performance out of our schools. So as we work with Governor Whitmer on literacy, we're going to take a step today. We're going to move legislation to ban the cell phones in the classrooms. Now kids will still have access to them for emergencies. They can use them outside of the classroom. So I think we found the right balance there. Mark Tisdale's done a great job working on this with Senator Polehanki. And, Senator Polehanki has a lot of bad things to say about me, but, I was very instrumental in getting that work keys bill through. I mean, they had tried for years and years and years, every session, to get that work keys bill through to make that optional. I mean, the MEA wanted it. A lot of people wanted it. And, Brad Paquette came to me and said, hey, I think I've got this worked out with Senator Polehanki. Can we put this up for a vote? I said, absolutely. And we did that, and they'd been trying to do that probably for 10 years, and we got it done last year, and nobody said anything about it. But that was a huge lift on education, and we're going to do another big lift on this ban on the classrooms, ban on kids having cell phones in the classrooms. So, the Democrats all voted no on this before. I don't think we should be playing politics with our kids. Right? I mean, we want our kids focused on the classroom, focused on their teachers. We want them learning. We don't want them distracted, playing games on their phones, messaging each other. They need to put the phones away and be focused. And unfortunately, most of these school districts don't have the courage to deal with this locally. So we're going to pass a law that requires them to do it. That make sure that they do it, that they come up with these policies to ban the cell phones in the classrooms, and we give them some guidelines on what they need to do, and they need to make sure they're not using them in the classroom, but they can use them outside the classroom and for emergencies. That goes K through 12. So my hope is that the Democrats put the politics aside today, put our kids first, and vote alongside the Republicans to get this bill over to the Senate and get this over to the governor so we can start out this year, I think, with a very major achievement, which is banning the cell phones in the classrooms and helping our kids stay focused on learning. So you'll see that move forward today. Now, my understanding is the Senate isn't doing anything this week, but maybe they'll show up next week and actually vote and move this over to the governor. I think it'd be a great thing if before the governor's State of the State, we can get this to her desk and she can sign it, and we can put this into effect. My guess is, when does this go into? Hey, Rick, how you doing? You're doing a great job, Rick. He's got a great show. If you guys don't watch Rick Albin's show, you should watch it. I learn so much every time I watch your show. It's a great show. I would say you and Chuck Stokes are the very best. Those two do a great job. When does this bill take effect? Do you guys know? The cell phone bill? Will you guys get us an answer on that? Okay, we're going to need that. They're doing some last minute wheeling and dealing, and we're going to have a sub that we're going to vote on, which takes it and makes it a uniform for K through 12. You know, the prior version of this was tiered. Some of the grades were banned altogether. Some of them could have it like you know, in the school, but not in the classroom. So this one makes it all uniform. It requires the districts to do it. But you guys will have to tell me the effective date, because I don't know if that changed in the negotiations. So let me know when you guys have it. So we're very excited about that as we move forward this year in the new legislature. We're going to, you know, in year 2 of this very historic legislature, which did very big things, and we're going to celebrate it today with a big panorama. This will be one to remember, don't you think, Tim? You'll remember this one when you're doing your show 20 years from now. You'll remember this one. This is a historic legislature, so we're going to take the panorama today. Yeah.
The coming school year this fall.
Okay, so it takes effect this fall. That's what I thought, but I did not want to give any disinformation out there, because they would fact check me. You know how they are. They would only focus on that. So it takes effect for next school year, but you know, we could wait until June to do it, and then the schools don't have as much time to implement the policy. The idea is, if we do it now, I think we start the year off on a good foot. We do something significant. I mean, we only have, 73 bills to go to law this year to stay under what we did last year and set the record again. So we got to make sure every one of these is impactful. And I think these two, one is Tisdale, one is Pohanky, will be very impactful and make a big difference for our kids, and hopefully will change the trajectory of their lives as they are focused on their teachers, focused on learning the material in the classroom, and hopefully this is one of the tools we use to improve literacy and improve education in Michigan. We're happy to work with the governor on this. Anyway, as we're doing that, I think this year you're going to see some big things, which we're not going to announce today. Tim would kill me if I announced it today and I wasn't on his show. But we're going to do some big things on property tax reform. That's coming soon. But you're going to see major relief proposed by House Republicans to help people with their property taxes, which are getting way too high. You know, under the Biden inflation, it was 5% every year increase, and that adds up. And now, you know, people are facing a real challenge with affording their property taxes. And maybe, you know, a lot of people, older people, they paid off their homes, but they could still lose their homes over the property taxes that are so high. And, you know, you look at this, I mean, you want to buy a new house, but you can't, because your property taxes will double. I mean, it's crazy what we're seeing with the out-of-control property taxes. And so to make life more affordable, we're going to propose legislation or a constitutional amendment. We're still working on it. Probably both, I would say. We'll do a lot of things. You've got to tackle this a lot of different ways. So there will be multiple legislative and constitutional, probably, items that we'll propose very soon to take drastic measures to lower property taxes dramatically in the state of Michigan. We heard from President Trump yesterday how important healthcare affordability is. I really applaud the work of President Trump. He's taking on these insurance companies, ending these payoffs to all the insurance companies. He's going after the drug companies. Trump RX is going to bring down drug costs. You see what he's doing with Ozempic to bring down those costs. And then this most favored nation status is probably one of the most significant things that President Trump will have done in his second term. Forcing the drug companies to offer their lowest prices to the United States for their drugs. We're going to see those costs dramatically lowering. Likewise, as we approach this year, you're going to see House Republicans take action. You know, we're going to take on the drug companies, we're going to take on the insurance companies, and we're going to take on the hospitals and these health systems, which have gotten way too big, way too big. They said when they merged into like 5 big systems, that was going to lower costs, but the studies are saying it actually cut out all the competition and increased costs. So we're looking at, a new commission that will be able to look into the hospital's financial information and ensure that, they're nonprofits, but they're building all kinds of new, I can't say Taj Mahal because you already quoted me quote of the day on that with, remember the 14 Taj Mahals that Sarah Anthony built here in Lansing? Those are going away on Friday once we get that once we get that TRO. But anyway, you look at these monstrosities that they're building, these hospitals. I mean, they're always building new wings and all kinds of things. I mean, that's where their profits are going. They're going into very high compensation for their CEOs. I mean, some of these CEOs make over $1 million a year in the hospitals, and their executives are very highly paid. And then you look at their, they're expanding like crazy. So I think we should be looking at, are these nonprofit hospitals, are they doing enough to lower their costs, or are they taking all their profits and spending them in ways that are not good for the affordability of healthcare in Michigan? And also, I think we need to look at their prices, and I think as we look at their financial information, this new commission will have the authority to look at their prices and make sure they're keeping their prices in line with affordability. We want our hospitals to be successful. We want our rural hospitals to be successful. We were disappointed with this recent application for the rural health from Governor Whitmer. They left millions, I think hundreds of millions of dollars on the table that they could have got for Michigan because they aren't adopting a lot of these MAHA principles, things that would have gotten us more rural health funding. So we're going to take a look at that as we're going into this new year. If you do things like banning the soda in the SNAP program, if you do things to encourage healthier lifestyles, healthier eating, healthier habits, you can get more rural health funding. I think we missed the opportunity to do that last year. It was interesting. This guy from the Hospital Association was very critical of the governor's rural health application. It was funny. It's the first time he's acknowledged, by the way, that President Trump and the Congress, their intent was to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in our rural hospitals. He never admitted that until he was criticizing Governor Whitmer for not getting the funding for it. That was kind of funny, honestly. This guy's a real piece of work. But anyway, we're going to look at that in the coming year, and as we move into next year, see if we can actually get the intent of President Trump and the Congress to get that money into our rural hospitals. We want our rural hospitals to be very vibrant. We want them to provide great care and access to people in rural communities, and we'll be watching that very closely this year. We've saved Medicaid. That's a big thing for hospitals, but we need them to provide reasonable costs that people can afford. And my hope is this year we will get the Jonathan Lindsay price transparency bill into law. That's a really important bill. We got it through the House last year. And this is one of those funny bills where when you put it up for a vote, everybody votes for it, but there's so much posturing behind the scenes from the politicians to stop it. My hope is that Winnie Brinks will put this up for a vote very early this year. Let's get hospital price transparency over the line, and let's get it to the governor. I'd like to see her sign it before her State of the State, so people can actually understand what these costs are coming from hospitals, because right now you don't know. I think we got a lot of work to do on healthcare, working with President Trump, and it's not just hospitals, it's drug companies, it's insurance. I mean, everyone has a a role in the high cost of healthcare, but this is really one of the biggest issues facing our state. When you talk to small business owners, they'll tell you it's maybe a 20% increase every year. It's unsustainable. It's really out of control. We're going to be looking this year at a new regulatory reform committee, I guess. I've talked about it at Mackinac. Really a modern JCAR, fixing JCAR to put more teeth in it so we can block a lot of these ridiculous regulations that are coming out of the administration. And we are working forward on our regulatory reform package. There will be many more regulatory reform bills. So, we got to keep our tax structure competitive. And that includes property taxes for small businesses through the PPT. We got to look at that because, I talked to a restaurant owner the other day who had a very high PPT bill on a new restaurant that she is working on, and didn't expect that PPT bill, and that's a real barrier. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars for a small business. It punishes you from investing. You invest in new equipment, and you get this huge tax bill. And that raises costs for everybody. So we're looking at that. We're looking at energy prices and how can we lower energy costs. And it's the same thing with the utilities. I mean, if they invest in a reliable modern grid, they get a huge tax bill that gets passed on to us. So affordability is going to be the focus this year for the House on property taxes, housing costs, healthcare, energy costs, and we're excited to hit the ground working with Governor Whitmer to do these things. And I heard some of you in your analysis said, is there a will to do big things this year, an election year? I'll say for me, yes. For the House Republicans, yes. We watched Joe Tate last year govern very carefully and not do significant things, and they lost the House. I don't care that it's an election year. We're going to take risks. We're going to do bold things. We're going to do very similar to last year. And my hope is that we'll come forward with some very aggressive and needed changes to Michigan law that are going to make life better for people. I don't care that it's an election year. We're going to do the big things this year, too, to bring costs down for people. I got a few minutes. Now, do you know I'm a constitutional attorney, so I do know, and Beth likes to point that out, but thank you for always pointing that out. More of you should point that out. I have to be in there at noon because the Constitution says at noon we start, but I'll go on and take a few questions. So go ahead. Yeah, Travers.
Considering the new racism allegations with the Secretary of State and the settlement last year,
Right.
And you see similar issues in the history of the Whitmer administration using these secret and expensive settlements, is there any House oversight priority to look into more transparency for taxpayers, and is this something you'll take up in 2026?
Yeah, I think Jay DeBoyer will continue looking into the Secretary of State's office. None of us know exactly what's going on. I mean, we aren't in the department, so we don't know exactly what's going on. But I will say this: I look at this, these allegations of discrimination in Secretary of State Benson's office. And I think it's just another symptom of her poor management. Benson is focused on running for governor. We've seen time after time her dropping the ball in her office. We look at how we had to literally change state law because she wasn't working on her IT, she wasn't managing her websites, and she wasn't managing her IT programs. Now you look at these allegations about things going on in her office of discrimination. And I would say if you had an engaged leader managing that department, they would understand if there's a culture in there of discrimination and of retaliation against employees, and they would address those matters and they would build a culture in their organization that prevented that. So when I saw that, I could say, look, there clearly is a problem here. We don't know the facts. We'll see what happens in the lawsuit. But again, you need an engaged manager who's a talented manager running your government. And we clearly don't have that with Jocelyn Benson. And you look at my department, the House, I have the lowest turnover of any speaker. I don't know if you know that. I mean, when Tate was here, people were leaving left and right. It was unbelievable. We've retained almost all of our top talent for all 3 years, 2 years as minority leader, 1 year as speaker, and we're going to retain them all pretty much as we go through this year. So, but I'm an engaged manager. I know people like to point out I'm a constitutional attorney. I also, in college, I was a management major. I'm an expert in management. And I manage this organization. I'm engaged, and I'm on top of it. And you see the huge transformation in the House. I mean, look at our social media, look at the comms we're doing, look at the great policy we're developing. I inherited a very weak, broken organization that lost a majority, and I've turned it into a juggernaut. But Jocelyn Benson, maybe I should teach her about management. She's a very bad manager, and you see it popping up everywhere in her departments, and this is just another example. Go ahead, Kyle.
Speaker, do you have a request from the governor on a date for state of the state?
No.
Is that surprising?
Well, I think when she sends a letter, you guys will see it.
Okay, but she hasn't sent it to you yet.
Correct. Yes.
The Michigan Supreme Court is considering barring ICE agents from entering court proceedings. AG Nessel has spoken out in favor of that, but I want to ask you, where do you stand on ICE agents going into court proceedings and taking actions?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I'll just say that I'm obviously very supportive of our ICE officers. I'm supportive of the efforts by President Trump. I mean, you look, President Trump has secured our border. And I think you see, I mean, under Biden, I went down to the border and I saw so many, I mean, there were people crossing the border illegally while I was there. The border was out of control, and I applaud the efforts of ICE. They've gotten it under control, and our border is secure, and that's because of ICE, and I think we should really applaud their work. They're doing what the American people wanted, and our country is more safe as a result.
So specifically going into court proceedings, do you support that action?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the details of that. Go ahead, Jordan.
Can I?
She had her hand up just a second before you. All right.
Returning to the cell phone bills for
Yeah.
a minute. I know that you said New Year, you want to start off kind of on the right foot,
Exactly.
give Democrats the chance to vote for this. But I was curious if anything changed, any negotiating behind the scenes that prompted this bill being brought up again first thing.
Well, Mark Tisdale has really been working hard on this, and I saw him on Tim's show recently talking about it, and if you watch Tim's show, you'll see all the work he's done. The Democrats tanked this bill because they don't like Mark Tisdale, and they wanted to send a political message to the Republicans, and they were heavily criticized when they voted against the bill to ban cell phones in the classroom. Even the MEA has been working this behind the scenes, like, you guys are crazy. Why are you voting against our kids? And why are you voting to allow them to continue to be distracted in the classroom just to score political points? And you guys saw Mike Duggan just raking the Democrats over the coals on this. And so a lot of pressure is building on the Democrats. They know they made a mistake. And Mark Tisdale just kept working the issue. He kept talking to the governor's office. He's kept talking to Polanyi. He keeps, working me on it. And I think he's gotten to a place where here we are again. We had a deal last year. The Democrats in the House blew it up and voted no. We have a deal again. There will be a sub today, which basically makes it a uniform for K through 12. Which means K through 12, no phones in the classroom, but they can have phones for emergencies and things like that, but they can't use them in the classroom. They can use them when they're not in class. And that is a change from the bill that was there before, which kind of had a different standard for elementary and middle school and high school. But really, because of Mark Tisdale and his relentless work, that's why this is going up for a vote today. And I'm hopeful the Democrats take this gift and vote yes for our kids. It should be a no-brainer, but only the Democrats could screw up a gift like this, so we'll see. Yeah, Elena.
So obviously the work project situation is still playing out in court right now, but there was talk of a supplemental.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you in thinking of that? How has the court case affected that? What are you saying to some of your members who are concerned about work
Yeah.
projects in their area? And then I would also love to hear about your thoughts on CREC being this Friday,
Sure.
what you're hoping to learn from that.
Yeah.
If these numbers, do you think they will be relevant for helping to build the budget? I know last year you wanted to wait until after the
Right.
May CREC. What are your
Right.
thoughts on the
Sure.
January CREC?
So the first part of the question, what was the first part?
Work projects and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
supplemental.
So, I'm very pleased to see, Judge Godola asked for a very, very quick hearing on our lawsuit on Friday. My hope is that he'll grant a temporary restraining order on Friday, which will pause all of this illegal spending by the Whitmer administration in collusion with Dana Nessel and Sarah Anthony, the ultimate Lansing insider. She wants those Lansing Taj Mahal buildings so bad. She conspired with Dana Nessel to cook up this political opinion. And once Sarah Anthony understands what she did, she's going to hate this opinion because she basically cut off her own hands. I mean, essentially what this opinion says is that once you give the money to the governor, if she holds it for a year, she can do whatever she wants with it. There'll never be another work project again. It really weakens legislative intent in the budget, and that's why this very Democrat political CRC came out and said, this is not a good law, this is not a good opinion, we need something else. And so Sarah Anthony will eventually see that once the kind of initial rush wears off. But with the TRO, we're going to get a TRO, I'm hopeful, Friday. I think we've got a very good case, and if you look at our case, essentially, this road they're going down could invalidate work projects altogether, and basically all the money comes back after the end of the year. So it's a very can of worms that Dana Nessel opened up. And then once we hopefully get the TRO and we get a preliminary injunction, then we'll go back to negotiating a supplemental. But we'll know more after Friday. And the second question? Correct. Yeah, so I saw, you've got to be very suspicious of anything what's his name, Zinn? He's a very political economist, so you got to be very suspicious of anything he puts out there. But, the numbers from the Senate are showing that we're down I think it's $300 million next year. I think people are going to be very happy if that holds, that we cut hundreds of millions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're holding it in general fund to potentially allocate to fill holes next year. This COVID spending spree is over, and we're going to start meeting some more difficult budgets, and we're going to need that money. I got Tim, and then I got to go.
The president says affordability is fake, but you think it's your top priority. Who's right?
He says what?
The president has said affordability is Democratic fake language. You think it's your top priority. Who is right?
It's Democrat what? Sorry, I just couldn't hear you.
He said it's fake.
Oh, it's okay.
Affordability
Got
is
it.
fake.
I think if you listen to what President Trump said yesterday, he was zeroed in on affordability. I think he made it clear that Biden created such a mess with prices. I mean, the prices were so high under Biden, and I think he's pointing out how he's brought a lot of the costs down.
He said it's fake. He said the Democrats are using it as a fake issue.
Well, if you listen to his speech yesterday, President Trump was talking about, bringing down the credit card fees, capping the rates, bringing down housing costs, bringing down healthcare costs. So if you watch his remarks, he's very focused on affordability. But I think he also acknowledges that Biden created this price problem. All right, anything else? All right, I'm going to go gavel in. See you guys. Yep.